No, 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 no.
Nerdrotic.com.
I have to ask as well, how many of you guys survived Wonder Woman 1984 when you did your watch through?
You know the mall fight scene?
Mm-hmm.
We were
Yeah.
all losing our shit with laughter and confusion that we had to pause the film, we had to stop, we had to talk through all... That scene's amazing. All of the drama happens because a guy drops his gun.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if he hadn't done that...
There's a lot to unpack from that one. It's when the guy gets thrown into like the ring and it starts spinning around and he's like holding on to it. I was like, I stepped back from the film and I just had to question my life. What was going on?
We even spotted a mistake where a guy is on the floor acting as though he's been wrapped around by the lasso, but they didn't CGI it, so he's just there rolling around like, oh no, without anything on. It just looks really funny. It's like, what are you doing?
It's like this movie was made like back in the mid-90s with those kind of like that level of effects and that level of attention to detail.
I said like it was almost like they were going overboard with like, hey, remember the 80s? Everybody had a fanny pack. Everybody had a loud yellow shirt. It was just like overkill.
Everything's neon. Everything's brightly colored. Like, you know, you go to a gym and everyone's wearing like bright pink like workout clothes. It's so over the top, like cartoonish. And you compare that to the first one, which was relatively muted. It was obviously set in World War One. Like the color scheme's pretty grounded. Like it kind of looks fairly believable for the most part. When you see that compared to this, it's like a whole different team worked on it. I think I got a bad vibe like with that first scene in Themyscira where they've got to do the assault course thing and it goes on for about 2 hours by itself. Like it just seemed to drag forever. Yeah, what? You know, when it comes to things like that, you know, like these big obstacle courses where they're not obviously driven by like machines because the Amazons don't have advanced technology. So I always like to think like, okay, could I imagine stuff like this existing in any kind of real world scenario? No, not with any of this. It's all just insane bonkers CGI nonsense. Like,
I think the movie had like lost me in terms of thinking it was even a film at all when Steve Trevor spontaneously decided, hey, if I launch this RPG, you can attach your whip to it and get to the children. That, like, my brain broke at that point. I was like, you can't be serious.
I could not. Yeah, that's what I had a hard time. I had to stop it at that scene. That was like, what just happened? Did they?
I assume this movie's been butchered in the editing room as well because you know there's things like Steve and Diana just teleporting from Egypt back to Washington D.C. to go to that meeting with the guy with the ancient book and stuff, and it's like there's no in between scene to explain
There's
how they got there.
There's a nanosecond scene that I missed the first time around. It shows the invisible jet flying out of like a fucking farm field, and I'm like, what the. How did they get back? And I had to go back and see it. And then like it didn't register in my brain. It was so short. Bad editing. You're supposed to, why would you want to have an establishing scene with an invisible jet?
There's no like strong sense of like the time period. You know, take out the ridiculous outfits, and it could really be happening in the present day. Like apart from like the kind of clunky old-fashioned computers or things like that, but like. You know, there's not really a sense of 80s culture or anything like that. You know, obviously the 80s music is missing from the soundtrack for the most part. And you just think, damn, like what was the point in even doing this if you're not going to make use of it?
We all heard the reports that Pascal's character was a Donald Trump figure. I didn't pick that up at all. Did any of you really pick up those elements?
No. He's kind of like just a bolshy 1980s like con man. Like that's all he is. And it doesn't even go all in on that. Like it actually portrays him pretty sympathetically. I think he's an immigrant from like a poor background. He loves his son. He's desperate to succeed. He's terrified of failing, and it ultimately causes him to resort to like the dildo stone fucking gem thing that grants your wishes. That's nothing like anything that Hollywood would portray Donald Trump.
The hot take we had was that so when we'd finished this film, Jay hadn't seen it, and he was like, "So what happens in it?" And I had an idea. I was like, "I'm going to describe the film as though it's Maxwell's film. It's his story." And so when this kid growing up, his parents essentially hate each other. It's like a broken family, and he's really poor and he's bullied. He's growing up and he's trying to achieve that American dream. He's always presenting himself as though he has, but the first thing we see is his whole office building is falling apart. There's no one working there and stuff. And then you get to that final scene where he admits to his son, like, you know what, it's not true. I'm not a great guy. I'm not someone who's achieved everything. I suck, and you know, I need to fucking work with that instead of trying to pretend anything else. It's like, huh. So how does Wonder Woman fit into any of this? It's like, I don't know, she doesn't really. She's kind of annoying in the film, so go away. This is the thing, if it's supposed to be a Trump character, it's like, so why'd you make him like the most interesting character in the movie? What was the point of that?
No. Clearly, the most interesting character in the movie was Kristen Wiig. I mean, like,
okay, so yeah, if you chop out her entire plot, I think the film actually like drastically improves.
Yep.
We knock out like 40 minutes of nothing. I was so confused when she took the glasses off. She was like, "I'm hot now." I was like, "What?" you just
they
took
did
the
it.
Glasses off.
They actually did it.
What was the final fight? She's supposed to be Apex powerful predator, and she's defeated by electricity, but it doesn't affect Wonder Woman. It's like I don't understand what's happening. What?
But they still should have cast somebody much better than Kristen Wiig for. Well, Cheetah was everything was a waste in this movie.
Did you guys like whenever you make a wish, it fucking blows wind at you?
Yeah.
When I realized this, I just couldn't stop laughing. So the finale, she can't get a whip of truth, whatever the fuck, on him because there's too much wind. All of that wind is coming from all the wishes being granted. That's so stupid.
It's wish wind.
It's the way when she has to like pretend like she's getting flattened against the wall by it, and it just looks like such clumsy acting. Like, oh no, this wind is so strong, I can't move.
Not to go back to it, but I love that she knocks out 3 security cameras and she thinks that that's it. It's like, first of all, they don't store the video inside the cameras, you dumbass. Like, why the fuck would that do anything? And all of the people there, everyone, all these eyewitness accounts that basically could describe her to a T.
So this other guy, they never explained that. And they didn't need to do it. They could have just had Steve reappear.
Yes, that would have been so much easier and simpler narratively. But this idea that like you've essentially taken over a man's life, you know, a guy who, you know, he has family, friends, like he's got a life all to his own, and you're like just willing to like just erase all of that so you can have Steve back. It's like you don't have the right to do that to a person. The first act of this movie was so fucking slow. It was like a romantic drama or something. Like there was no action set pieces. There was very little like plot developments happening. It was just setting up characters, and like, god damn, it dragged. It was so boring to watch.
It is a crazy movie. Absolutely nuts. It's obviously failed as an adaptation. It's failed as a sequel. It's failed as like a movie that pleases, let's say the me types, the ones who's like, oh, I love it when it's consistent and stuff. It's failed the people who just enjoy movies for fun, and then of course it's failed the people who are like, this is empowering for women. It's like, I don't know that there's a sect of people that it hasn't pissed off. Basically,
that is a sign of an extremely bad movie.
If you like what I do here, please consider subscribing to the channel and liking and sharing the videos. It really does help. And if you did this with your favorite YouTuber as well, I'm sure they would appreciate it as much as I do.